I thought that was very interesting having them talk about the film. And then I also liked, I mean, your research, the questions, I thought it was very interesting looking at the costumes this time and how there was a disconnect apparently between how Queen Elizabeth really would have dressed. But the costume designer wanted, I think, a more elaborate, creative, really fun and playful kind of costume with the peacock feathers, on Queen Elizabeth and all of that. So I noticed some of those things that I never would have paid attention to the first time. And I just think you ask really nice questions to get me thinking. So I appreciated that as well.
Okay, thank you. I researched a little bit more than what I posted because I didn't want to overwhelm, the group, the people in the group with all the information. But I was curious about those 50 pounds. Remember their bet? If actors can, if playwrights can create a story that reflects the depth of love or something like that, and at the end, uh, sort of William Shakespeare basically won that bet. And I was like, 50 pounds, it's not that much. I mean, why are they so, why is they so worried about it? But then I looked it up, and it's so much money in that time. I don't remember exactly. There was a special converter, to present prices, but you basically could buy at least 3 horses or 6 cows or something like that. It was like the salary of a year of a good merchant, a trader. So not the lowest kind of worker, but like middle class person who worked for the whole year. So it's quite a lot of money, as it turns out. So this was interesting for me. But yeah, the information was. What I liked about it, because I watched it for the third time, I guess, is that every time you watch, you start noticing more things. Like I like the quotes to Shakespeare. If you don't read Shakespeare in the original, you probably don't notice those. But when you have read them, or at least start paying attention, you notice that the priest says that, like, people in the street say quotes from Shakespeare. It's so funny. And also, what I found funny was this, when William Shakespeare goes to, I guess, psychologists nowadays. It's such a modern, modern
Yeah,
interpretation. Because I mean, it those times it was,
anachronism. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
something which should
It
not
was
happen.
impossible, but it was so funny for me. Okay, so let's jump into the first question. So, what did you like most about the movie? So, this was partly the answer from on my part. I liked the humor in it. Because the more I watch it, the funnier it seems. Because the first time when I watched it, I think I was crying. Like, Romeo, oh Juliet. But now it was sort of more funny for me, and because of this kind of the play of words and stuff like that. So, what about you? What did you like most about the movie, or what did you hate most about the movie, if you hated something?
Uh,
I think that for, for me is the most interesting is main idea about love between two people with different from different world, and they can got this minutes, this maybe not long time, but they have it, and they bring in their heart and in their head and remember about it. I think that is this history main idea in this film can pay attention of us about and answer to us. Are we have this history in our life?
Mm-hmm.
So I like this main idea. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Okay, thank you.
I like the picture, the representation of the time. It's late 16th century, golden age of England, with all these costumes and how street like life looks like. So yeah, it's not very often in movie you can see this period. very hard to represent in terms of surrounding, in terms of dress. Maybe human behavior is more like today, not really
Yeah, yeah,
like in that time, but anyway, good life in the past, I'd say. Also,
yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow is very nice.
Speaking about the surroundings and the atmosphere and the setting of the film, I think it was, at least to some extent, quite accurate, with all the, like trash lying in the street and people emptying their, night pots or whatever. So a lot of dirtiness, which was at that time, I think it was pretty obvious because there was no, like plumbing or nothing like that. So I think this was pretty well represented there. And the costumes are impressive. I don't know how accurate or not accurate they are. I think there are some discrepancies, but still they are impressive. Okay, anybody else want to share what they liked most here in this movie? No? Kate?
I can't say what I liked the most, but I did appreciate the details, especially since I knew the story, to pay attention to all of those details, not only in the setting and the costumes and the language and the quotes. I love the quote about it, how it will all turn out. I don't know. It's a mystery. Is that straight from Shakespeare?
I'm not sure. I haven't read Shakespeare that much. I don't know quotes from everything. I recognize the very famous quote about plague on both your houses or something like that, that the priest was saying at the beginning of the movie, if you remember that. And then it
That's
was
straight
used. Yeah.
from
Um,
Romeo.
but as for that, I don't know. But it was funny how they sort of played it several times throughout the movie and how it really sort of was enacted in real life, that everything turned out well.
But how, it's a mystery. So that is, as an older person, I'm in my 60s. So that is more a representation of life than love, because I would say, I would disagree, I guess, with the outcome of the bet, that it isn't a true representation of deep love. It's more lust.
Uh-huh.
So that was interesting, because I wouldn't have thought about that the first time that I saw the film. Uh, so I guess I'm just picking up on both ER and Pasha's comments, that I also appreciate those things. Made me think.
Yeah, and speaking about the language, you mentioned it before. It was, I guess, if you're just a learner, it's really difficult to watch it in the original. I can't even imagine watching it when I was a student in the original, because they quote Shakespeare and they speak in an old-fashioned way, using all those old-fashioned words that don't exist anymore. So it's a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, at the same time it makes it interesting, adds this atmosphere, but makes it difficult. Yeah. Okay, if nothing else here, we can move on to the next one. What, in your opinion, is the key moment in the story? And what is your favorite scene, maybe the specific scene?
In the end, when main actors cannot play a role, and Shakespeare and I don't remember other women who with
Viola.
Viola, and they play main role, and it's the finish of this act, and I think that is, and maybe the finish of the finish, when Shakespeare start to write a new poem for Queen Elizabeth.
Okay, basically the whole end of the film. You like the whole ending of the film. I was thinking about a more specific, shorter sort of episode or scene, um, but it's okay. Pasha, Did you like any particular scene?
Any particular? I don't know why I like Ben Affleck in this movie when he appears. Admiral is here,
Uh huh.
and he changed everything. All people who, I would say, also managers, said I will give you money, you will do whatever I want because I'm
Ah,
Admiral.
yeah. I remember that.
Great scene.
Like, listen to me,
Yeah.
I will command everything here.
And I even shared a quote when he said, "Everybody remain silent." And then this money person starts talking and he says, "Who are you?" "I am the money." And, like very, very respectfully. And he said, "Oh, if you're the money, you can you can stay, but you will remain silent." And he was listening to him, he was obeying. So he was a big star. Everybody respected him and everybody listened to him. So yeah, it was for me, it was more funny than interesting, but interesting too. And such a character, I mean, such a person actually existed, as far as I know from what I've read. I'm not sure that he looked like Ben Affleck, probably not. But but yeah, there was a very famous actor who was like a star at that time, etc. I personally like the moment. It was at the end when Romeo and Juliet was on stage, and the death scene where everybody dies, and the nanny is shouting, "He's dead!" or something like that. It's usually so. Um, like it makes me almost shiver. Goosebumps. I have goosebumps when somebody from the audience believes so much that they start, like shouting something or doing something. So for me, it was one of the most interesting scenes. Anybody else?
I would say that's interesting that you bring up that scene, because one of the things that I appreciate about the whole film, not to answer your specific question, is how all of the acting is so good that I never feel like I'm, evaluating the acting or the actual production. I'm just totally involved in the whole film, even the second time watching it. My favorite scene is when they are dancing and Shakespeare and Gwyneth Paltrow. What's her? I mean, I can't even remember.
Viola, or Viola.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Viola, whatever her name is. When they first make, this contact of, they love each other, that they're really in lust, or they're very interested in each other. But I love the dancing, and so it's not only that moment, when they connect, but it's also that it's in this beautiful dance, I guess.
Huh. Actually, I didn't pay attention to the dance. I was paying more attention to the dialogue, but it's interesting because when I was watching Pride and Prejudice, I actually paid attention to how they dance and what they dance and how it went. I don't know why I didn't do that for this movie. Interesting. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Well, to me, dance is also a metaphor for life, I guess.
Well, yeah, definitely. Okay, we can move on. Does this film change your understanding of William Shakespeare? And later we'll discuss what motivates him, maybe. So, especially if it's your first time watching this movie, did it change your perception of William Shakespeare or not?
I'm not a big fan about Shakespeare, so I have my opinion about Shakespeare and their creatives. I don't know, but nothing changed in me.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you. You haven't thought about Shakespeare enough.
But it's this. Actually, I have first experience when I watched this film, but I watched it in short period between my free time of my daughter. So maybe I don't catch everything in the right way, but it's something different. It's not about only Romeo and Juliet. It's some I don't know, some third version of Shakespeare life and this play and this society and this time. I don't know. It's not only about Shakespeare as a poet or about their play. It's some special history, special film, something third, not about only Shakespeare there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a documentary about Shakespeare, but it's also about, it gives a perspective of Shakespeare, a different perspective, I hope. Uh,
And it's a good test for my education because many phrases I don't know because I don't
okay.
read. I didn't read Shakespeare in English. I read it in Russian or Ukrainian, but I didn't read it in English, and it's I understood that I'm lazy bone and I don't watch and read Shakespeare in original. It's how
Shakespeare in the
how I
original is impossible. I mean, even I struggled with Shakespeare in
how
the
I
original.
Native
read.
speakers struggle with Shakespeare.
It's very difficult to read because it was written like 400 years ago or something like that, and the language changed, and even native speakers have trouble reading it. So you haven't lost much. You can totally read it in the translation, or even like the retelling of what it's all about.
Adaptation.
I mean, it's not the same, but it's very challenging to read Shakespeare in the original. We had a special class for that, like literature, American and English literature, and we discussed it, and still it was like really, really challenging for English learning, people. So it's it's a challenge, yeah. But when the first time I watched it, it sort of changed something in me, because for me, Shakespeare was, this portrait on the wall, like an oldish man, not oldish, but like 40s or something, in this wig or whatever, like very typical portrait. Uh, and you don't perceive him as a human being. Usually you perceive him like a prominent a poet of that time. Uh, but when you watch something like this, it's sort of it creates a context, and when you have context, you start connecting emotionally with him, or with what he was writing about, and you start getting interested in those poems and how they connect to his life, and then it becomes really interesting. Literature becomes alive, sort of. So for me, it was interesting from that point of view too. Pasha, what about you?
I can say that it changed something. Firstly, I know nothing about Shakespeare, but I just bypassed him in the school. That's it. And I think the movie which changes your thought about him is The Man of Renaissance with Danny DeVito,
Renaissance Man.
a Renaissance man.
For you it was that movie, because for me it
Yeah.
wasn't. I mean, it
And
was
after that
interesting.
movie, for my sister, Shakespeare is number one. She bought all of his books. She read everything, but not me.
Okay. So for you, it was a different movie, but still a movie that introduced sort of Shakespeare as a person to you. Okay. Seta, do you have
It's
anything
the
to add?
value of Shakespeare or play it.
Seta, do you have anything to say? You are muted right now. I think it's a little bit slow on resources. Sveta, you are muted. You are muted. Uh-huh.
Ah,
Okay.
sorry. So, okay. So I like Shakespeare also, and thanks to this movie, my imagination of Shakespeare a little bit changed, and we can say it is very interesting personality, and we can, for example, describe as a rich, deep world inside of him, and it was only part which he showed us
Mm-hmm.
about him, about his personality. And I like this movie, for example, about this nature of feelings, nature of love, and maybe this what motivates him. It was the nature of love. I mean, this, how to describe the main moment, key moment of this movie was about nature of love for me.
Okay, so let's keep talking about it. So, what do you think motivates William Shakespeare in this movie? I mean, not in life, because we don't know what motivated him in life. By the way, nobody knows. Still, there is no proof what he was. Like his true identity. As far as I know, it hasn't been proven. But in this movie, what motivates William Shakespeare? Why is he doing what
Wow.
he's doing?
Mm,
Okay, nobody wants to answer, or nobody knows, or
Motivate the new
I suppose. Uh-huh.
women.
women.
Where is
Okay,
women?
that's a good point. So it starts off as a he at least at the beginning of the movie, he's like a womanizer. He's chasing women. He's sort of sleeping with them and trying to find inspiration in them, as far as I understood. Right? Did you understood the same way?
Yes.
Yeah. So and at the end of the movie, is he changed or is he the same? What do you think?
I think the same, actually, because we don't know what will happen after finish of this film. Because I think can be without any changes.
Well, again, I'm not sure I'm right, but he seemed like a person who is chasing impressions. I want fresh impressions. I want fresh impressions. And for him, those romances with women were just one way of getting those impressions. And after Viola leaves for the United States, I guess he would start trying to look for these impressions again. I'm not sure, but I have this kind of
I
impression
have a
myself.
point. I have a point that every actors, writers, it's really different. All of them is really are uh, different people, not as normal, usual people who knows that in the moment you have dinner, in the I don't know breakfast, and as usual normal life because everybody looking for inspiration. So at this moment he has an inspiration in with this woman. Maybe after this film, we don't know. Maybe Shakespeare in Love second part it's about a new woman or many women because these people is are different. Not normal people. I have one big love for all my life. I think that no, it's all of them find new inspiration every month, every years, maybe it's a little life. So this part of life is finished at this stage, as for me. And maybe in the next series, next part, it's new series, new inspiration, new life. No, it's my little
Okay,
plan.
yeah, yeah. I
Plan
sort
for
of
it.
I sort of see the point. Yeah. And if you maybe you notice that he uses everything in his life as inspiration for his plays. Everything he hears on the street, he takes the lines and puts them into the play. Everything that happens to him, all the events, like meeting someone, etc. And then even when they are in bed and she says something to him, he uses her phrases in the play. So everything, like you had said, everything is inspiration for creative people, for writers or playwrights, whatever. So all Romeo and Juliet is filled with sort of like interpreted life events, people, real life people, and quotes and stuff like that. So it was really, to some extent, it was funny, but on the other hand, it's very curious how their minds work and how they transform their experiences into a creative process. So yeah, Pasha, do you have anything to add here? No. Okay. So we have number 4. The film contains a lot of references to other Shakespeare plays. Which of these did you spot? Did you notice any references?
You can hear that they speak something not not from regular script, some like poetry. It's
Mm-hmm.
not from everyday life. Yes, it's taken from some source from some literature. But I don't know Shakespeare that much, but I don't know him at all to say where it is.
Yeah, as far as I remember, there were at least like 4 or 5 different places where he was sort of, and they were not even direct quotes, as far as I remember. They were like the interpretation of quotes, so not word for word, but something very similar that what he later uses, or in some other place. But yes, some of those were used. Okay, so I mentioned that he uses everything, all the events and people in his life, to use them in his play Romeo and Juliet. Which events did you notice? So it was question number 5. What events in the film influenced the play Romeo and Juliet?
Mm,
I guess the key was when Marvel was killed, and he was shocked of it, and Viola heard that he has a wife. He also was mad, so just turned everything in Shakespeare's head upside down, and he changed the play. All his intention from a
From
funny
comedy to
play,
tragedy, yeah.
yeah, tragedy.
Okay, anything else? For me, it's funny. I mean, it was pretty common in that time for actors to, I don't know, cross dress or whatever it's called. Like there were no women in the theater, only men who played women also. Uh, but it's so not funny, but so curious how this theme or this topic of changing your appearance, like women playing men or men playing women, well, usually women playing men. It also plays sort of in some of his plays. Uh, I think even in the next play, what it's called, with Viola, the main character, called the same, where she appears first as a man, dressed like as a man. So I think it was one of the topics that he used. I mean, in real life, people did that, at least in the theater, and he started using it as one of his themes or motives in the plays. Well, also, as I mentioned, he used people's lines all the time, replique. Like people said something and he would use them, like the plague on both your houses, or something like "Чума на оба ваши дома." He first heard it in the street when the priest was saying that to the flock, and he later used it in his play. And there were a couple of quotes like that too. So also, how the romance develops. He starts noticing that they are not going to be together, and he reflects that in his play too. So yeah. So the next question here is, how does the film show the expectations of gender and sexuality in the early 16th century? So what do we know about the role of women in the 16th century and how it's reflected in the film?
this question for girls.
So can you speak louder a little bit?
This question for girls.
No, actually,
Girls,
let's say
please.
that in higher estate, women were a kind of, let's say, the marriage was a kind of contract.
Yeah.
Pasha,
In
be
families.
careful, because if you answer, you can be not.
So, speaking about Viola, she was a, how to say, business active or asset, which
Asset.
her
Yeah.
father can exchange
Exactly.
for some benefits.
Yeah. As far as I remember, she was compared to some rubies in the saddlebag. There was a piece of dialogue when her father was talking to her fiance, and she was compared to a mule, like a stubborn horse. And her father mentioned something like, "But she has some good rubies, a saddlebag of rubies, or some rubies in the saddlebag." So basically, again, an asset, but nothing more. Not a personality for sure. And the way they talked about her fertility and breeding, it was so infuriating. Like, I would have killed them.
But
So
Even the
you
time it was
I
like that.
noticed
Sorry?
Did you notice the phrase from the end when Queen Elizabeth says that she good understood when women play man role?
Yeah. Another good point. It's not only about like marriage when it's basically a contract between assets, like sharing assets, but also about uh, the queen who has to behave like a man or assume a man's role. At that time it was considered to be just a man's role, and what she had to sacrifice to do that, which was a good point. Very nicely done, I think, the way she stepped into this stage and said that. And there was this analogy between her and Viola, so that was really well observed, Igor. Thank you for sharing. Anything else?
So not bad everything about male female at that age, because the queen is was woman.
Okay.
The queen is the head of church in England, and whatever she says is a law. It's God's law. Even something is odd, something is against some moral rules, but she, as a, not only as a queen, but as a head of the church, as the highest moral authority, can approve uh, whatever she wants. Actually.
Okay. Yeah. I guess she does, and she did.
And again, should mention that in the time, love was something outside the marriage. Marriage and love was different things.
Had nothing to do with marriage. Yes, love had nothing to do with marriage. The way people got married, and the way, like, even the kings and queens had like lovers, or like how they got married had nothing to do with how they loved or were loved. So yeah, it's really interesting. Kate, do you have anything to share here?
Not
Okay,
at this
okay,
moment.
okay. Um, Next question in our list is the ending of the film a happy ending, in your opinion? And why do you think so?
Yes.
Why? It's too short. Don't just say yes. Explain why you think
Well,
it's a happy ending.
yes, because both of them, and I think that all players and actors in this film have a big love, or all of them fall in love, or all of them saw how other people fall in love. So is this happy? This is happy film with happy end, because everything was good. Not. Uh, Happy it's not for a long time, because if happy period will be a lot of time, people don't
Appreciate it.
understand that it's very good. So short story about love, uh, not about when both of them was marriage and have a child. No, but they have a love. I think that's the main things. And maybe all of us who, as I said in the start of our meet, all of us watch this film, watch this scene, and thinking about, did I have this story in my life? So I think that this is a good film with happy end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Igor. I see your point. So it's better to have loved and have lost it than not experience it at all. Something like that, right? To have this story in your life.
I that if we watch a long film about how they have an bad situation with child who try to eat them and other marriages life, I think that it's not interesting story for Shakespeare in law.
So basically, we are saying marriages are not a good story. They don't make a good story.
No, it's not a bad story, but it's different story.
Okay,
Different story.
okay. Thank you. Sieta, do you have anything to say here? Is it a good ending or a sort of sad ending for you? Okay.
Sorry.
No. Unmute yourself. You're muted again. Uh-huh. Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I suppose it is open-ending story because yes, they had a very good and short story, love story, but they became this nature of love. I don't know how to describe настоящую instant. No.
No, real love, true love.
True love, yes,
Hmm.
true love. And so in the ending of this film we can see some special scene like a continuation of this love story,
Hmm.
but with another story, with the next step, next movement. And it is maybe it is love and end of this story, love story, for eternity, love of eternity, maybe. Because open, yes, they couldn't be together, but they can have their love in their heart for eternity.
Okay, yes, I think we will.
And it is very, yes, from
William Shakespeare even
and
said
for me
something
it
like, "You
was
will
very
always be young in my
interesting.
heart," or something like that, right? So,
Yes. It was very interesting story, and we can describe that this personality is very strong, both of them, because they could, for example, to Боже, отпустить.
let
Can you
go,
help me?
let go. They could let
Yes,
go
yeah,
of.
they
Mhm.
could let go.
Okay.
Yes, but at the same time, they have both of them have this true love in their heart. I suppose it's some of key moments of this story, especially in the end of this movie.
Okay, okay. I see your point because when I first watched it, I was very young at the time. Please remember that. I was crying. For me, it was a very sad story. I was so disappointed that they were not together. And only this last episode, when not episode, the scene that they show her, like walking on the beach, it sort of made it a little bit better because it was not so terrible. Because if you start to imagine her life in Carolina or where she was going. I don't remember exactly the
Virginia.
state. Virginia, yes, and how unhappy she is in her marriage. And when you start to think about it, I would probably be even more unhappy. But because they included this last scene, it was a sort of like okay, let it be. But now when I watch it, I think it's sort of like it's a good thing that they. I mean, there was no other better version of that story, I think, because he is married. They couldn't even get married because he was already married. So she could either become his lover, which would lead nowhere, I guess, with his temperament and his need for
Yeah.
new impressions, etc. I don't think it would have ended well. So, in my opinion, the current ending is sort of a happy ending for both of them. I don't know. Kate, what do you think?
Actually, in reality, she could not be married already with Wessex. He would not accept such marriage already
Yeah. So
because
go ahead. Because keep going.
as we mentioned, marriage is a contract, and the role of woman is to give a birth for his kids. So she should be virgin. He should be 100% sure that all kids will be his kids, his dynasty. And if this rules is violated, it just cancellation of the wedding, shame on her till the end of her life. Or, yeah, she could marry only William Shakespeare.
So basically, if you look at it as a contract, she was like spoiled goods. She was no good for him, right? I
And
think
actually, for Shakespeare, this law bring a lot of money, new order. So it's really, I think that this situation make him a rich man and famous man. So
You're
everybody will win. Everybody have good love story, interesting story for other many ages after that, and I don't know, really happy end. I'm sorry.
okay. Okay, so everybody wins. As for
I,
Viola, yeah, Kate, go ahead. I interrupted
well, I
you.
was just going to say, for me, I think it's really interesting to hear your different perspectives. There were so many restrictions. You know, people had to abide by the church or abide by their families or, you know, abide by the societal laws. And there was this hate between the two families in Romeo and Juliet, you know, and um, I think that the very fact that they ended with Viola walking, you know, surviving, I guess, you know, and having overcome these things, and she had the freedom to choose, you know, it was inferred that she had the freedom to choose her life going forward, you know. So to me, the triumph was this freedom to choose, I guess, in spite of all of these obstacles. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah. So she didn't just blindly follow what her father told her, but she did what she considered necessary or what she wanted and didn't end up in a ditch somewhere, right? Or something like that. Speaking about the ending that Pasha mentioned that she would have been ruined, I think the role, what Queen Elizabeth said, her decision or final resolution. I think that's basically what made it possible for her for Wessex to get married with her or something like that. You know, because I don't think she would have wanted her, but she was sort of obligated because the Queen
Yeah,
commanded.
the
So,
queen can say. It's
but I
like
can't.
I don't know, in the time was the example when the king has a lover with kids and then say, okay, duke or something, here is your wife with my kids.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's it.
yeah, yeah. So one of the last questions, because there are two questions left. Queen Elizabeth poses the question: can a play show us the very truth and nature of love? So can it reflect correctly the nature of love? In your opinion, how does the movie answer this question? So this Romeo and Juliet, this play, does it reflect correctly the nature of love or show the truth of love? What do you think?
I don't know. I'm married a lot of years, so I don't remember. Sorry.
Very diplomatic sort of answer. uh, uh,
So the queen says yes.
well, yes, the
She's
queen's decision was yes. That's why she gave away £50, right? Awarded the prize. I when I watched when I read, I think I read it first, Romeo and Juliet. I mean, when I was still in high school, I thought it was such an improbable story. You know, like it couldn't have happened. You know, like how could they get married? How could they run away? How could they, you know, commit suicide or whatever? You know, like drink poison. It seemed so like a fairy tale or something like that. But if you sort of step away from the details, do you think it's a love story or is it not a love story or some other kind of story? What do you think about Romeo and Juliet? You know, this story inside the story.
Actually, I think that it can be a love story, but I hope that a lot of, not maybe all of us, but a lot of us as a people don't feel like this, because it's, I think that's really high level of feeling, but it's not happy in the peace, you know, happy. It's some really lot lot history, and you watch and you don't mm, understand this or something like this. But I hope that all of us can got quite long history, not about Romeo and Juliet, because I want to I don't know have a morning breakfast in my kitchen with my family without capuletti, mantechi, and
Uh-huh.
something else. But it's really real. I think it's real feeling, feeling on the high level, and it's it's exciting for everybody. But I hope that it's not for all of us. So for some little part of people, because it's love story, but it's a tragedy story, and I want to. I'm sorry.
I want to never experience that, I guess, what you wanted to say. Yeah. Okay. If nothing else to add, the last question here. Have you seen any films like this before? And when I say like this, it can be in any meaning, like about theater, about Queen Elizabeth, about William Shakespeare, or about something else. So if you have, you're welcome to share it. Maybe I'll take some ideas and for our next movie, discussions.
Uh, okay, I will start then. I figure out that oh, in the same year, two actors from this movie, Jeffrey Rush and Shakespeare, played in another movie about Queen Elizabeth
Yeah.
called
Yeah.
Elizabeth
I know what you're talking
with Kate
about.
Blanchett.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I watched it. I think twice, but some time ago, and
and since the second part is Golden Age.
yeah, and when I was watching this film, I sort of thought about that too. But the queen is much younger at that time, as far as I
Yeah,
remember. Yeah, she's like a young queen, how she came into power. So it made me think about that too. But the first movie I thought was a different one. It's I think I mentioned it to Kate. It's called Stage Beauty because it's directly related to acting and performances and actors of that time when only men played the roles. There were no women in the theater. And this was one of those films that I watched a long time ago, like, for example, in 2003. And then I couldn't forget it. It just kept remembering it and kept going back and thinking about it. And so I guess it left an impression. And there are parallels here. What about you guys? I mean, the rest, Igor and Kate and Sveta. Any, like associations, analogies with other movies or TV shows? No? Okay.
also a couple of movies about theater of that time. Maybe a bit later. Uh, I haven't seen yet called Restoration with Robert Downey. It's a bit earlier, 1995, I guess.
Hmm.
With Robert Downey younger.
Okay. I don't think I've seen it.
I heard that it's very good. I downloaded but haven't seen it yet. About the time of King Charles II, which was restored after Cromwell, and his life in his palace was a sort of brothel.
Okay, Portello. Okay,
He was very
I definitely
specific
haven't seen that
person.
one. But thank you for letting me know. It sounds interesting. Because I have.
And and another movie, not about theater, but it's some part of that movie, Spanish movie, A la Triste. A la Triste.
Oh, hi. Oh, Conquista. How did you say?
A la Triste.
A la Triste. I've seen A la Triste. I think it's much.
It's more about war,
Yeah,
some
it definitely isn't
early
funny. As far as
17th
I remember, it
century.
wasn't funny at all. It was about
No, not
war.
funny,
Yes, it
yeah.
was serious.
But there was shown theater a bit and attitude toward actors.
And Hugo, what's his name? Quite a famous actor is starring there as the main character. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
anyway. Yeah, but I've seen that one. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So,
What about About Nothing? There's
sorry.
another comedy, a Shakespeare comedy, which is just an interpretation of Much Ado About Nothing, but it's a fun film, very fun film about love and about, yeah, it's an
Uh,
interpret.
as far
And it
as
stars Richard Branagh and Emma Thompson, I think, maybe.
I'm asking because, as far as I know, there are at least a couple of versions, of the same play, but well, at least screen interpretation. That's why I will look up Emma Thompson. I actually like this actress. Um, it might be fun to watch it again.
That's a very light, fun movie. I think it's really well done again. I mean, it's one that I've become totally immersed in, and it's beautiful scenery, and because a lot of it takes place outdoors. But it gives you the idea of the time, and how people dressed, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And again, Shakespeare, right?
yeah. If you like Shakespeare and you want to explore his plays, it's a fun way to do it, I think.
Well, I do love Shakespeare stories. Sort of, I can't say that I love reading him in the original because I don't. But
Right.
I think his stories, his plays, at least those that I have watched and read, uh, although they are very intense and not always believable, they are fun to fun to watch. And
Hmm.
that's what basically he was writing about. He was writing for the audience to come and to pay him money for having fun. So he wasn't
Hmm.
thinking about high literature and stuff like that. He was thinking about attracting audiences.
Hmm.
So I think he was pretty successful with that. Okay, we are going to wrap up. So there are a couple of things I want to mention. First of all, you can, if you want to, you can leave a donation. It's not obligatory; it's optional, but you are welcome to do that. Secondly, I was suggested by one of my clients that the next movie we need to watch. She said we need to watch something about Christmas to put us in a Christmas mood. What do you think about that? Would you,
Transformers.
no, 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 no. Transformers are not about Christmas. She suggested Christmas Carol, which I watched, and for me it was a
Harry
little bit
Potter.
scary. Like
All series of Harry Potter.
uh, no, it's too long. I mean, I wouldn't mind because I like them, but it's too much. Um, have you
I
seen
have no idea.
Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey? It was sort of like an animation movie. It's based on Dickens, with three spirits of the past, of the present, and the future. Uh,
Oh,
it's I can't say I actually watched it after her suggestion. I can't say it's my favorite movie. I was a little bit scared at it sometimes. I think if I went to the theater, and watched it in 3D, I would probably be scared. I'm one of those people who is scared easily. But it might be fun. I'm not quite sure what kind of questions we can discuss, but just an idea for you. Watch it and let me know if you would like to discuss it. I think it's a fun movie to watch, maybe even with your kids if they don't scare
William
easily.
Shakespeare right now, Dickens, it's okay. England
Okay.
literature is good.
Okay. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention is I have this idea. I wanted to organize a New Year party of all of us English learners for free,
Yoo-hoo!
with some interesting, really cool activities that would put us in a good mood, New Year mood, with a Christmas New Yearish song, very modern one, not Jingle Bells. I mean, we all know and love Jingle Bells, but this one is more contemporary, more modern. So it's not just for fun. It will be fun. I promise you. At least I hope so. But it will also we will also learn some interesting cool phrases. Also, we are going to do a New Year bucket list. Do you know the expression bucket list? It's like what you
It's
want to do in
something
the
that
new
you
year.
never done.
What you definitely want to do in the new year. For example, to read 5 books, or I don't know, to skydive or whatever, and also to
Maybe.
sort of say goodbye to this year and compare, for example, the biggest achievement of this year, or the best TV show, or the best book you've read, or something like that. So I think it might be interesting and fun and cool and also useful for your English. So if you like this idea, if you want to come, let me know what times are sort of convenient for you. I will share with you a calendar. Just let me do it right now, maybe in the Copy link and in the chat. I will send it to you also in the group. In the calendar, you can choose which days and dates are convenient, and then I'll compare how many people, for example, want to come at that particular day. So we'll just compare what times are more convenient. Or you can just write me if you want to. Okay? Does it sound like fun or no?
It's really fun and up to you every day. I'm in. I like it. Yes.
Okay. I will send you the details a little bit later, not today, but later in the week. Hope to see you at that New Year, I don't know, hangout, New Year party. We can call it whatever we want to. So I'll be looking forward to your answers. Have fun, and thank you for showing up today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me
Thank you.
too. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank
Kate, will
you.
you stay for a minute?
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Okay. Did you enjoy it, or was it a waste of time for you?
Oh, it's never a waste of time. Never. I mean, I enjoy